I intentionally kept this a week late because I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to go see the movie before we did an entire spoiler cast. But if you have not seen Deadpool 2 and you plan on seeing Deadpool 2 and you don't want Deadpool 2 spoiled for you, skip ahead a little bit because we are going to be talking about other things that aren't related to Deadpool 2 specifically. Actually, if you're watching this on YouTube, just go to another video because I do cut this up for YouTube. But if you're on the audio version, skip ahead some. I don't know how long. You'll just have to guess. So I've seen Deadpool 2. Jimmy's seen Deadpool 2. Nolan saw Deadpool 2. That means all three of us have seen Deadpool 2. That's good. There wouldn't be much of a spoiler cast if one of us hadn't seen it and couldn't talk about
It'd be live reaction spoiler cast.
There you go. Nolan, you've been the quietest the most, so I'm going to start with you. What'd you think of the movie, just overall?
I loved it. In fact, I liked it way more than Infinity War.
Yeah.
Like I liked Infinity Wars. I wasn't super pissed off and upset at the end of it because I knew, because I have an idea of what happens in the comics. Therefore, it's kind of I wasn't like, what? I can't believe they did that, but that's for a different time. But I love Deadpool too. I love Deadpool, just straight up. He's quickly become one of my all-time favorite comic book characters.
Yeah.
Just because I love the fourth wall breaks and just some of the smaller things that I never knew before,
Right.
Like the insanity factor. And apparently that part of the reason that Venom is so messed up is because he had bonded with Deadpool first, apparently, or so I've heard.
I did not know.
And that's part of the reason why the Venom, not parasite. What am I?
Symbiote.
Symbiote. Thank you. I'm like, wait, symbiote. Apparently, that's part of the reason why the Venom symbiote is a little crazy. It's because he spent too much time inside Deadpool.
Interesting.
That's what I've heard. So I can't completely confirm that, but that's what I've been told. But
all right.
But then just I love the fourth wall breaks. I love the way he just does everything. Just his super sarcastic, snarky attitude is just fantastic. And then yeah, at the end of the first movie when he's they did the kind of the Ferris Bueller's Day Off thing. He's like, no, go home. And he announced it hey, Cable's going to be in this one. I got stoked because I'm like, oh, sweet, because I like Cable too.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found, then when 2 came out and it had Cable in there, I was excited about that. So
awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yay, Jamie's back.
Yeah.
Storm's wreaking havoc on my power grid.
Yeah. Jimmy, what did you think of the movie?
I like the first one better.
Yeah.
And I will tell you why. Number one, I think this one might have been a little too meta.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it being in the X-Men cinematic universe. I don't like the X-Men cinematic universe. I think they need to stop everything and start it over.
Yeah.
Because there's just too much comic book stuff going on as far as retcons and time jumps, and I don't like it at all. I think it's cool if they want to keep Deadpool as the outlier looking in, saying, hey, I remember all these retcons and everything, but they need to just erase everything. And maybe they should just stop, actually.
I mean, sometimes there's wisdom in that. You never know.
The only good X-Men movie, in my opinion, was the first one.
I like the first one and the third one.
I like the third one because Scott Summers died. I hate Cyclops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. At the beginning of the third one. And it was so...
it was so abrupt. It was just
over. Oh, here's this guy and he's dead, and now we're not going to talk about it anymore. Huh?
Yeah.
What is that about? Which, I mean, I'm kind of with Jimmy. I didn't care because I don't like the character. It was just weird.
Well, it's also what happened when we try to shoehorn an entire, arc of something into the beginning of a movie.
Right.
The Dark Phoenix.
In the MCU, I'm not, and full disclosure. I don't follow these characters outside of the MCU, so I don't know a whole lot about them in the comics. The only time that I ever followed any of them outside of the MCU was in Saturday morning cartoons. That's as close as I ever got to these characters.
Which were actually pretty faithful to the comics, by the way.
Right. And so, like, in the MCU, I'm not a real big fan of Scarlet Witch or Vision. But if in Avengers 4, Scarlet Witch was just crossing the street and got hit by a bus and was dead, I'd be like, I mean, really? Or that's how we're going to get rid of this person? Is we're just going to run her over with a bus and then move on? Like, don't do that.
Yeah, it worked in
Do
Excel
something
Saga.
with it.
Yeah.
I have not seen Excel Saga. My brother keeps
Episode 1. Episode 1, the very first, like, 30 seconds of the show, the main character is murdered. So
that's interesting.
Yep.
I'll have to look this show up. So I feel kind of the same way I think that Nolan does. I really, really, really liked Infinity War. I liked Infinity War more than I thought I was going to. I was surprised that I liked Deadpool more than Infinity War. Now, I don't think it's fair to compare the two movies because they're not at all the same thing. So to say that I like one more than the other is not like, it's not because I think Infinity War did anything bad. It's just I really, really, really liked Deadpool too.
Well,
Go ahead.
There's a couple of things about Deadpool that threw me off. Like it makes sense with as silly a character as Deadpool is that they would do what they did with the X-Force, right? Mm-hmm. You know, Shatterstar and you know Brad Pitt and everything.
Which we'll get to that. But yeah.
I think it makes sense for the comedy, but honestly, I didn't care for what they did with it. Domino is interesting. I never liked her as a character, so I was kind of meh about her in the movie, despite the fact that she is central to Deadpool's early storylines. She just never really got to me. And yes, I was one of those guys who was annoyed with the casting choice for Domino. And then I was also one of the ones who was less annoyed after I watched the performance because she wasn't bad. But to be perfectly honest, I think you could have done without adding all those extra characters. And I think it wasn't necessary for him to mention where Pinkie Pie actually was from because anybody who would get the reference would already know. Also, I spent a good portion of that movie with misty eyes. For some reason, it just made me really sad. Not the same kind of sad that Infinity War did, right? Infinity War, I walked out of there just dead silent, nothing to say. Kind of like American Sniper when I saw that in the theater. You know, the whole theater was dead silent as we walked out and shuffled out. It was like we had just been to a funeral or several funerals. Deadpool, for some reason, I just felt sad through the whole time. Like this whole, I don't know, just I think maybe it was the thought of the family dying just got to me. Like the same reason why the It remake made me severely uncomfortable in that first scene was because I could only imagine my kids at the sewer getting his arm ripped off, you know. So I felt sad, and I felt it was kind of a cop-out to kill Vanessa, who was literally the focal point of the entire first freaking movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was
retcon it in the mid-credit scene.
Right. Which again, that is again something that he would do. So it makes sense from the character standpoint, but it's lazy writing.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to. Ned finished his stream, so he hopped in here and joined us. Ned, we'll give you the floor here in a moment. Something, Jimmy, that you said that you thought the Deadpool 2 was too meta. I remember that being a complaint that I had with the first one was that so again, reminding everybody, I have no connection to any of these characters outside of these movies. But what I did know about Deadpool was that in the comics, he does a lot of fourth wall breaking. And I felt like that didn't get utilized enough in the first one. Like it happened once, maybe twice. And I don't mean like not referencing other things. He referenced other things constantly. He just very rarely did that, looking into the camera and being like, "Hey, audience, I'm talking to you in this moment." I didn't feel like that happened enough in the first one, and in this one, I liked how much it happened. I could see thinking maybe that was a little heavy-handed.
I mean, the Pinkie Pie reference is especially. I know this is the second time I brought it up, but it's especially significant because Pinkie Pie is Deadpool in the MLP universe. She breaks that fourth wall. She's damn near unkillable. She's got all the superpowers. The fact that they did not pay Hasbro $1 million to actually be able to use her briefly, because she has shown up in so much fan art. She's shown up in, the Screen Rant and death battles or whatever.
There's a death battle between Deadpool and Pinkie Pie.
And they decided not to kill each other. They both broke out and beat up the writers.
That's a very, that's so now I will say about this movie, and I kind of felt this way about the first one too. I didn't care a whole lot about the plot so much, like the motivation for what was pushing everybody forward. Now, okay, let me be more clear. I liked Cable. I liked Cable's motivation. That little kid, I didn't care 2 pennies about him at all. He was not likable. I was never really given an opportunity to ever care about him, and I really was like, you know what, if Cable kills this kid, other than the fact that I'll be like, oh wow, they murdered a child on screen, that's different. I don't think it's really going to affect me at all. So, I mean, I knew it wasn't going to happen because, obviously everything has to work out okay and the kid has to be fine. But I didn't care about him. I don't, if he's a character in future Deadpool movies, which we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening with Fox in the next segment of the show. So we'll get into that some, like what's going to happen with all that. But like, if he is going to carry on into the next movies, I don't give a crap about him. Like, just leave him alone. He can go do whatever it is that he wants to do. I am excited about the prospect of, the team with Cable and Domino and the big shiny metal Russian guy, whatever his name is.
Colossus. I had a problem with that.
Okay.
The guy that they had, the non-powered guy, Peter. No. Okay, now, first of all, he was loosely based on a character in the comics who is actually a fairly important character. He wasn't as just random and goofy as this Peter was, but he was based loosely on a character. Number 2, the fact that they named him Peter annoys me because he keeps calling Colossus when Colossus's name is Peter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. And Quicksilver's name is Peter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Peters in the Marvel.
Well, Pietro, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Colossus Deadpool dynamic.
Parker. There's a lot of Peters. Wow.
Yeah.
The Colossus Deadpool dynamic is amazing, and the thing is, though, is that I think that the Colossus Deadpool dynamic is going to have to disappear because Colossus was just a stand-in for Cable in the first movie. Mm-hmm. Because the dynamic he has with Deadpool, the deadpan versus the silly, the straight man versus the goofball, is Cable and Deadpool. Their comic series.
Yeah.
The two of them, that was their dynamic. And if Colossus comes back, it's going to be, a third wheel.
Right.
So
they should do a thing in the X-Men movies or the Marvel movies where 2 Peters are fighting each other, but then they realize they have the same name, and so they decide to
Peter too.
They already made that joke.
No, I know.
The Juggernaut, I think, was. I don't think that the Juggernaut was written properly.
I found it interesting that he's not dead. Like he climbed out of that pool at the very end of the movie.
Well, yeah, it's because it's Juggernaut. He's
right.
Juggernaut.
So, go ahead.
Number 1, the fact that Deadpool did not make a "You're the Juggernaut, bitch" reference, was wrong. Especially considering that Ryan Reynolds actually played the Juggernaut as well in this movie.
Yeah. He did.
But as a character, Juggernaut would not do that. Juggernaut would not just randomly take a kid. He would, more than likely, pull a Sabretooth. He would pretend to be the kid's friend until that door was open, and then he would step on him and walk away, and then the whole story would not matter.
I half expected it, to be honest.
I'd
Like
been-
just or something, or yeah.
Back to not caring about the kid. I'd have loved that.
Well, the kid was a prick. And I tell you what, when the thing that endeared me to Wade Wilson in this movie was when he realized that the kid was being picked on and
Secret sex
abused.
lips.
That's
great.
I think part of the whole thing why I felt compelled by the movie and why I felt kind of sad was the whole abuse angle through the whole thing. And I kind of felt for the kid on that angle because I was not well treated as a child. And I'm not going to go into any detail, but that's the nicest way I'm going to say it. I was angry and vicious for many, 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 many years. So I totally get where this kid's coming from. And I also understand that nobody liked me. So, I mean, it kind of plays its way out. I mean, shit, people still don't like me, so it's all good.
Ned, a person that I would find it very difficult to believe that nobody doesn't like, even if just because, I mean, what has he done to you? Nothing. That's what. Although you're wearing that Jesus Reese's spoof shirt, and that's kind of pissing me off a little bit. But
what? You got your Christianity in my Judaism. You got my Judaism and
Ned, what did you saw the movie, right?
he's gonna say no, and we're gonna have to kick him out.
You're about to be like, did you not see this movie?
So, I have not seen the movie, but I've already had it spoiled for me.
Oh, okay. So you don't care if we.
Yeah,
I was about to ask you what you thought of it, but you wouldn't know.
What do you think of the spoilers, Ned?
Yeah, what do you think of them?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what I expected for Deadpool 2. You know, I'm still slightly salty that Ron Perlman wasn't cast as Cable.
You know, I totally.
Fantastic.
I was gonna bring that up.
But
Go ahead.
I mean, Ron Perlman not only had the look, but you know, the Ron Perlman voice is so distinctive.
Yeah.
That I think it would have been a perfect fit for Cable.
Right. Especially given that he did all that stuff with Sons of Anarchy. He already has the leather clad, I'm a badass kind of thing. Problem is, he's getting kind of chubby. I will say, what?
I would have loved it if he was Cable, because then I feel like there could have been some kind of like Slade Wilson like reference there, because Ron Perlman was the voice of Slade in the original Teen Titans. So I think that would have been really fantastic too.
Well, you also could have made a joke about the Lich or Hellboy.
Yeah.
But God, the Slade connection, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to the theater with my brother to see this on the morning of my birthday. And we were standing there and we were talking about something. I can't remember what. We were talking about how crappy the Solo poster looked. Like it looked all faded and washed out. And I glanced and I saw a poster for a movie that was actually previewed in front of Deadpool. And I can't remember what it's called. It's some Spanish name about starting a war in Mexico or something. And Josh Brolin is in that, right? Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, so Josh Brolin is Thanos, and now he's Cable, and he's also this secret agent guy in Mexico. This guy's in 3 movies at the same time. He is having one hell of a month.
Yeah.
And
oh, I know what movie you're talking about, because I saw the first, because it's
Cicado or something like that.
It's Sicario. It's a sequel to another movie, and that other movie was dumb. I went to that movie thinking, oh, this is gonna be great. It was so stupid.
Well,
I can't believe they're making a second one.
Let's do a Meatloaf. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right?
Well, now maybe the sequel is going to be good, because he wasn't in the first one. He's just in this sequel.
Well, I mean,
what's her name? That's John Krasinski's wife and was in that Quiet Place with him. Emily Blunt. She's in the first one. She was fine in it. It's just the movie itself was stupid.
Well, it reminded me of someone, and off the top of my head, I can't remember who it was who I thought of when I saw the poster. But I was talking to Nick, my brother, and I was saying, you know, this guy reminds me of so-and-so and so, who's just suddenly in everything. And then in about 6 months, we're never going to hear from him ever again.
Because he'll be tired.
Well, no, not even tired. What? Who was it that was just in everything? Oh, I was thinking Viggo Mortensen.
Yep, he was in after Lord of the Rings. He seemed like he was in everything, and then and then
Well,
what?
The Rock is not gonna just disappear. He's been in stuff steady for like the last 10 years.
Well, yeah,
Right.
And The Rock won't say no. Like, oh, you want me to jump off a skyscraper? I'll do it. No,
We want to name it. Name the movie "Jumping Off of Skyscrapers." Yeah.
I'll do it. No problem.
Oh, you want to do a sequel to that, which is a remake of Cliffhanger? Okay, let's do that.
Absolutely.
He's probably going to end up being in Avengers 4.
Who knows? He might.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in everything else. So
Well, I do know. So when Brolin got
He'll be the thing. The Rock.
I would watch that.
Yeah.
Oh, they're talking about remaking a Doom movie.
That would be cool.
Did you say
No,
Doom
it's not
or
wood.
Doom?
Doom.
Okay. Yeah.
They're
I
making
heard
a new
about that.
Doom movie.
I heard about that. So I heard that when Brolin got approached about being Cable, like everybody already knew he was going to be Thanos, and I wonder how much of that is the reason he got approached to be Cable was because they thought it'd be funny. But he almost turned it down because he was like, "This Thanos thing, I'm wore out. I don't have time, and I'm tired." And I'm really glad that he decided to do that. Although Perlman would have been really, really good.
Well, he was campaigning for it when the end of Deadpool 1 happened.
Yeah.
I can remember that.
And see, as a Fallout fanboy, Ron Perlman's close to my heart because he is the narrator in
Right.
all of the Fallout games.
Except
what?
Except
4.
Fallout 4.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is a shame too, because he has that iconic voice. He is the Morgan Freeman of video games.
Mm-hmm. You know, speaking of iconic voices, there's a show on Netflix that Caspian watches that called The Who Was Show. It's interesting for a little kid show. But there's a narrator, and I'm like, who is that? I know I recognize that voice.
Guy?
And I looked it up. It's that guy who plays Archer.
Oh.
You mean Bob's Burgers?
Yeah, he's also.
I've seen him. I actually saw him in a video. Himself.
Yeah.
Talking. He's one of those voice actors that uses his own regular voice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm doing the Patrick thing. Sorry. He's one of those voice actors who has no range whatsoever. And there's a couple of them on TV right now, like the Joe Swanson /Tick/ whatever.
Yeah.
But he looks nothing like any of his characters. All his characters look like Archer /Bob /whatever, but he looks like this kind of old, balding, skinny guy who my wife could beat up. And the clip was about him and some chef, some Japanese or Korean chef who does a strangely weird American themed restaurant in America, which when I say American themed, I don't mean like your Ruby Tuesdays or Chili's or whatever. I mean it's a restaurant whose theme is American food, and they like Disneyfy it, like they super theme it up, like they go overboard. But he basically took a bunch of sandwiches off of Bob's blackboard and made them, and made Bob Burger or whatever, Bob Belcher, eat it. The guy who does the voice, and it was hilarious watching this cat because he doesn't actually eat hamburgers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My first time ever hearing his voice was he was Coach McGurk on Home Movies, which was a cartoon.
Yeah. His name is H. John Benjamin, and I hated cartoon movies, but I do like some of Brennan Small's stuff.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking about
Deadpool 2.
So those cameos, Brad Pitt as the Invisible
Vanisher.
Yeah, the Vanisher. That was pretty funny. Also,
well, that was an inaccurate Vanisher. Vanisher was actually a teleporter like Nightcrawler, but I digress.
And then, Terry Crews was a character.
Come on, Bedlam.
That's right. I'm like, what was his name? I couldn't remember what his. Yes.
Yeah, and then so I didn't know this until I read about it in an article. But when Cable first shows up and he teleports or what, time travels into that spot, one of those rednecks is Matt Damon.
Yeah. It was the fat guy
What?
talking about toilet paper.
Yeah.
He's
And
wearing
the
a beard.
other redneck is from Trailer Park Boys, I think, maybe. I don't remember. He's someone famous, but
Well, it's not just that, but this it was the whole conversation itself was not a recreation, but that scene was a recreation of the Terminator taking the truck from the two hillbillies in the Terminator movie, which I thought was cool.
Except Cable wasn't naked when it happened.
Thankfully, I don't really think that Mr. Rollin would be all that fetching,
right?
Given his advanced girth and age and techno-organic virus.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads me to wonder, is half of his package metal as well? I mean, does he have to wear a cup when he jumps with Deadpool out of planes?
Don't know. I bet if you asked Ryan Reynolds, though, he'd tell you.
Probably. You know who I think would get along with Ryan Reynolds? Early Tom Green.
Maybe.
All I know of Tom Green is that I hate him.
What was that? That National Lampoon movie that Ryan Reynolds basically started on. Van Wilder. Wasn't Tom Green in that?
I think he was briefly. I actually met Tom Green and I got him to cuss me out on MTV. So
that didn't sound like it'd be very hard.
Well, it was funny. I mean, it's not funny now, but it was funny when I was a dumb kid. He went down to the University of Florida, down in Gainesville, and was talking about testicular cancer. And he was telling some story about trying to get the doctor to let him keep his removed genitalia. And so in the middle of it, for some reason, I screamed out, "Hey, Tom, show us your balls." And he's like, "Yeah, it was the smartest beeping thing I've ever heard all day." You know, it's like, yeah, that was
funny. So Vanessa dying right at the beginning.
Stupid.
That was something that a lot of people were upset about. Other than the fact that I didn't really get the whole him being in water and not being able to cross over the other side of the living room. I thought that was weird. I mean, I don't know.
The situation with Vanessa just kind of reminded me of like him trying to court death. And they're just making her like the personification of death in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good simile. The thing is that Deadpool can't die.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he regenerates from. He's like Wolverine. He regenerates from a single cell. Mm-hmm. And in fact, there is
better than Wolverine. Though?
What's that?
Doesn't he regenerate even faster than Wolverine?
He does. Now? He does at this point now. Yes. But he. Oh my God, that was the most painful death scene I have ever seen in any movie ever. Sorry, I just had to point that out. He actually, in one comic, he kills Wolverine. Where I think it's Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe is the book. Well, he literally kills everybody, and like the only one he actually shows mercy to is Peter Parker, and all he does is shoot him in the head. But he cannot die, and he regenerates from even as small as a single cell. Mm-hmm. And in fact, there are pieces that have been ripped off from him in the past that have grown back together, and now there's a second Deadpool. That's the evil Deadpool. So there's Deadpool versus Deadpool. You get the regular.
I wondered that in this movie. Like it seemed like, well, so at the beginning of it, he blows himself up and he's in all kinds of different pieces. And it seemed like where he regenerated from was from his head.
Mm-hmm.
But I wondered, like, well, he's got his arm and his leg, and are they not like growing the rest of him back? I don't know.
Suspension of disbelief for the movies, man. Right. Unless in Deadpool 3, it turns out that there's an army of Deadpool clones that have grown from the pieces of his body. And like there would be like references, like there would be the one Deadpool that was like just one giant walking cancer that had like the one hand that still had the glove and everything on from flipping us off at the beginning. And then, you know, the one that still had the pants on from when Juggernaut ripped him in half. And
right.
And then you would probably have the one with the mouth sewn shut just because he can't help himself from bringing that up.
Yeah.
And that would, I think there comes a point where there is too much meta in Deadpool, and I think that would probably be right about where it starts. If in Deadpool 3 he brings up Wolverine Origins again, then I think we'll have a problem.
He has brought it up in both movies.
He's also brought up Green Lantern in both movies.
Yeah. Well, and so So the mid-credit scenes, if y'all remember, that's when he starts bouncing through time, and that's when it gets really meta.
Super meta.
He kills Deadpool from Wolverine Origins, but then he also goes and kills Ryan Reynolds, the actor who plays Deadpool, while he's looking at a script for Green Lantern. It seems like if he would just go back and kill, because Green Lantern was after Wolverine Origins, if he would have just gone back a few more years and killed him, then he wouldn't have had to kill Deadpool.
Well, there's some corrections that need to be made here. Okay, first of all, that Deadpool did not die. That Deadpool was still alive at the end of Origins.
Yeah.
Okay. Second of all, a bullet is not going to kill him because he's Deadpool. Second to that, ancillary to that, 2B, he had in that movie a freaking adamantium skeleton. No bullet's going to pierce his head. Okay. Number 3, I forget what I was going with this, but it would have been better if he would have gone back and killed the Fox executive who forced him into that role.
Ooh, that would have been even better.
Right, because there's no telling whether or not that guy still works there after the horrible reviews from Origins.
Right.
That's one of the things that kind of pisses me off about Origins is like, because I like Gambit, and I saw Gambit in like Origins. I got excited for that. Then like there was the whole joke about there was going to be a Gambit movie, and that
it wasn't a joke. It's just in development hell.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, and wasn't
the Magic Mike.
Yeah, I was like, what's that guy's name?
Okay, I will tell you this. I liked the guy who played Sabretooth in the first X-Men, but Liev Schreiber in Origins was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing casting. The character was not all that great, but I think Liev Schreiber would have been a better Old Man Logan than
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, well, Hugh Jackman in general pisses me off because he was perfect for Wolverine when he was younger, and he got better at it. He got older and grew into it. But Wolverine was never one of my favorite X-Men. He wasn't even first generation X-Men. The fact that they made the series basically just Wolverine and the X-Men really bothered me.
Yeah,
through the whole Fox line. He was second gen X-Men. He wasn't even the best second gen X-Men. He should have been Alpha Flight. He should have been, fighting the Hulk. He should have been fighting the Juggernaut. He shouldn't have been fighting, Magneto and them. He didn't ever fight Magneto until the mid 80s. So, yeah.
So one joke that I was disappointed we didn't get in the movie. This is X-Force. This is also Wakanda Forever. And they never brought it up. And I'm like, come on. It's begging to be made, and you didn't do it.
Dude, that would piss off so many people, and I would have loved it.
Which is why they should have done it.
I like the Goonies reference in there, too. That, to me, was, like, one of my favorite things.
I think the only reference outside of because as much as I enjoyed the mid-credits stuff at the end, I do agree that at some point it was a little much. The only joke during the film that I felt like was forced was when he said, I don't remember who he was talking to. It might have been Cable, actually. He goes, "You're so dark. Are you sure you're not from the DC universe?" Right. And I was like, that was just like such a weird thing. I get you're trying to make a jab. The Martha joke was much better, I think, played off better. But you're dark, you're from the DC universe. I was like, I mean, I appreciate the jab, but try harder next time, please.
It was a little forced. It would have been better with just a simple "I am Batman."
Oh yeah, that was in there too, and that was really good.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton, who are you? I am Batman. Also,
everybody. Michael Keaton, man, Michael Keaton. Everyone's talking about how Killmonger is the greatest villain ever. No, Michael Keaton was the best. Vulture was awesome.
I loved Vulture. That was cool.
He was the most sympathetic villain in all of MCU. But continue.
I will say Vulture showed how you can do a sympathetic villain who is still obviously evil correctly.
Yeah.
Which is sad because the rest of that movie was garbage.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
So surprisingly, one of my favorite parts of this movie, and not just because it was a James Bond opening spoof, but actually just because of the song itself. But that song,
that was
Ash-
so good.
Ashes performed by Celine Dion, is such a freaking amazing song.
It was great.
That whole commercial was awesome too. Did you watch that video?
The music video for it? Yeah, it's so good. And I saw, so Ryan Reynolds, he seems like he had a lot more to do with like how the movie played out than most just run of the mill actors have over their characters. And he said they were talking about, they wrote the song Ashes and they're like, well, who are we going to get to do it? And on the Fox executives were like, oh, you got to get someone like, you know, your Selena Gomez or someone like that. And how he referred to it was, you know, a millennial singer. And he's like, well, no, if we're going to do this, we got to get the best. We got to get Celine Dion to do it. And so they write her. He said he wrote her. He said a letter. I feel like it was probably an email, but he wrote to her.
I think that he would send a letter. I really do.
He might have. And surprisingly to him, she responded and said, well, yeah, I'll do it. And then he was like, well, okay, if we're going to do that, let's shoot a music video. When's the last time anyone did a music video tie-in for a movie? Probably Titanic. So let's just go all 90s for it. And he asked her if she would be willing to do that. And she said, yeah. And so they shot that music video on her Las Vegas concert stage, which looks like a beautiful venue.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, if you haven't seen the video, it's fantastic. The way that it ends is really, really good.
You know, it doesn't just make fun of her; it gives her the opportunity to keep her power. Yeah, in it. It was really well done.
It's fantastic. But the whole song in its entirety is in the movie, and it's a James Bond spoof. Like opening. The one kind of jarring thing about it was you have the beginning of the movie and Vanessa has just been murdered and Deadpool gets his revenge on the guy that killed her. And it's like this really kind of like, I think they're really going for it to be really powerful and emotional. And then you immediately jump into this joke for a good 3.5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's really like, I want to laugh, but I'm still not really over what just happened, which is probably what they were going for.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. So good movie. Deadpool 2. It's great. Take your kids. It's a family movie.
It's a family movie.
Okay. Let me go ahead and stop you.
Don't take your kids.
I think this is probably less a family movie than Infinity War. And my kids, I think, were traumatized by Infinity War.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard that a lot, that people took their kids to see Infinity War and were kind of like, oh my gosh, what did I just do?
Oh my gosh, it's Squidward.
I did not expect it to be quite as rough as it was.
Yeah.
And I probably should have, because I have seen the way that the MCU has been going. Mm-hmm. Now, Deadpool, I knew in advance. I could feel it to begin with the first movie, so I didn't take them. And then this one, I knew after watching the first one that it was a bad idea. But Infinity War, I figured, no, Captain America's in it. Captain America doesn't just brutally destroy people. You know, if Captain America's in it, everything's going to be great. Well, my daughter, Molly, was, you know, she was basically parked in the crook of my arm for half of that movie. Mm-hmm. Because of some of the horrible things that were happening, you know, Ebony Maw and you know, torturing Doctor Strange, and you know, the Hulk getting the hell beat out of him, Loki getting just absolutely right. It was not good, and I feel bad for my daughter for that.
Yeah, my son wasn't down here when the movie came out, so I didn't take him. But I wouldn't have taken him anyway, and not even because I was expecting all that. Which, I mean, that's a reason that I'm glad he hasn't seen it yet. But because, like, I wouldn't take him to go see Guardians of the Galaxy because I knew it was more adult than the other ones. I mean, the other movies, they're PG-13. But there's not really any foul language in any of them to speak of. All the violence is mostly buildings and ships being blown up, and like someone gets punched and they fly through a wall. It's nothing that you wouldn't see in a cartoon for the most part. But Guardians of the Galaxy, because of how that was, I knew like, well, there's more adult language in this. And so because they were in Infinity War and because of how Thor Ragnarok played out.
Yeah, Ragnarok. I did not want to take my kids because of some of the jokes they were making.
Yeah, and so that's why I was like, well, that's kind of the way that the MCU is sort of headed, and those characters are all in Infinity War, so I will not take my child to go see Infinity War. And then it turned out to be really good because of everything else that happened in that movie, like Jimmy was just talking about.
I'm a little concerned with how Captain Marvel is going to be. I for some reason I'm just getting this feeling that it's going to be a lot of not just girl power type stuff. We're not talking like Wonder Woman being an amazing female lead. I'm thinking that I get the feeling that there's going to be. I think first of all she's going to be an unrepentant like super lesbian. I just get that feeling.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just being pessimistic about it, but I'm really concerned about Captain Marvel. For the fact that they're calling it Captain Marvel, first of all, that's Miss Marvel, but Captain Marvel is the guy they could now call Shazam, and he will always be Captain Marvel. I don't care what you say. Shut up, Ned. Stop correcting me, you butthead.
All right, we're gonna transition here. This is normally where I would do my live read for YouTube and Facebook. Odds are, if you're listening to this and you're on YouTube, you already know about it. So there, if you're on YouTube. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/CrossForgeGaming and facebook.com/groups/CrossForgeGaming. That's where you can find all of the stuff going on with CFG, our Twitch streams, the podcast here, all kinds of good stuff. And that's where you'll find the events that I talked about for CGN, the community game night. So there's that. All right.